What's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be watching a video titled Why American Food is Banned in Europe, and the reason being is because I saw this on my homepage and I was like, this is interesting because there is a lot of foods that are banned in Europe that are completely okay in America. So without further ado, let's see what this video is about.
McDonald's operates in 118 countries. In the UK, their burger bun has about a dozen ingredients. But in the US, the same bun has over 25. And up until 2016, one of those ingredients was a dough conditioner that's also used to manufacture yoga mats and shoes. And the CEO of McDonald's just went viral recently, eating one of these burgers on camera, calling it the product the entire time. Not the burger, not the food, the product. And honestly, that might be the most accurate description of American food right now, because there are over 3,000 additives approved in the US that are restricted or banned in other developed countries. And every single one of them got there through a regulatory loophole that was created in 1958 and hasn't been meaningfully updated since.
Okay, but if the European version of the burger is healthier, better, equally as pricey to make, you know, if it's, I mean, I would understand that they would do this if it was way cheaper for some reason, but why wouldn't they change it to something that's, you know, studied to be better? Because I don't even know half of these words. Like, what do you have in your hamburger buns, guys? That's, whoa, sorry, that's concerning.
So the question isn't whether these companies can make food without these chemicals. They make cleaner versions of the same products for every other country they sell in. The question is why they choose not to do it here.
By the way, I absolutely love how this video is made.
To understand how this works, let's forget about the history for a second and just follow a product. Let's say a food company develops a brand new chemical, never been tested, never been reviewed, and they want it in a box of cereal by next month. Let's call it Compound X. Here's what happens. The company would hire a panel of scientists to review the safety data on Compound X. Many of these scientists have financial ties to the company paying them. And every single time they reach the same conclusion. Compound X is generally recognized as safe, or GRAS. That GRAS label is so important.
Like, boy, I don't need it to be safe. What do you mean generally safe? Like, it's okay. What? That does not sound good. Generally safe. And also, why would you just want to add random compounds to a McDonald's burger?
Because it's basically a golden ticket. Any ingredient that gets classified as GRAS is completely exempt from the FDA's normal approval process. No safety review, no testing requirements, no waiting period. It skips the entire line.
What we have seen over time is that companies are creating new ingredients, having their own scientists or hiring outside scientists to make their own determinations that an ingredient is safe. And then once they self-declare that their ingredient is safe, they don't have to go through that pre-market process.
The FDA created this designation in 1958. And it was originally meant to cover things like salt, vinegar, and baking soda, stuff nobody needed to test because humans had been eating it for centuries. But by the 1990s, the FDA had a problem. You see, as food became more and more industrialized, hundreds of companies were submitting applications to try to get that golden ticket for the new ingredients they were using. And the agency didn't have the budget or the staff to review them all. The backlog was so long that it would take years to clear. So in 1997, under pressure from...
I'm still taken aback by the hamburger bun. It's water and flour. I don't even know if bread has butter in it or eggs. What else do you need? What are all those things?
The Clinton administration's push to cut costs and speed up federal agencies, the FDA made a decision that changed everything.
There was an announcement today by the Food and Drug Administration. Bettina Gregory has the story.
Instead of requiring companies to submit their safety data for review, they made the whole process voluntary. That means the company doesn't have to submit its determination to the FDA. It doesn't have to share the safety data. It doesn't even have to tell the FDA that compound X exists. It can just start putting it in food and shipping it to stores. Think about that for a second. That's like a student grading their own exam and the teacher saying, you don't even have to show me the test. I'll just take your word for it. And this isn't a hypothetical edge case. According to a 2022 analysis, companies have used the system to self-approve nearly 99% of new food chemicals since the year 2000. The Pew Research Center estimated in 2013 that roughly 1,000 ingredients had entered the food supply through this pathway without the FDA even knowing about them. The FDA's own former deputy commissioner for food admitted in 2014 that we simply do not have the information to vouch for the safety of many of these chemicals. So
the owner himself? What are you? But then why? Why? The food's already has it's been done. Why do you need to add to it? Generally safe chemicals. Like, it's like if I'm at home and I'm just like, oh, I just created this new chemical. Let's add it to a burger. Because I want to make money. That's so weird. That is the weirdest thing I've heard in my lifetime.
the system that was designed in 1958 to exempt salt and vinegar from paperwork is now the primary pathway that the entire food industry uses to put new chemicals into your food without any oversight. And this is
Right now I'm eating chips and cheese dip. I understand that it has to have like some type of preservatives, but oh my goodness, how many ingredients does this have? Acid, lactose acid, citric acid. This is wild. I don't even know what half of these things are, and they're in Spanish, so I can't even tell you guys, but
where you start to see why the same food tastes different depending on which country you buy it in.
oh. That's why Finnish food slaps. Like, when I go to Finland and I go to the grocery store, everything tastes so freaking good compared to Spain. I don't know what it is. Now I do. Chemicals.
Take a mac and cheese from Kraft, for example. For decades, the US version got its color from something called Yellow 5 and Yellow 6. They are synthetic dyes derived from petroleum. But the UK version used something way healthier. They use paprika extract and beta-carotene, which is an orange pigment naturally found in carrots. Not because Kraft can't make it without the artificial dyes in the UK. It's because in Europe, Yellow 5 and Yellow 6 dyes requires a mandatory warning label that reads, may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. Rather than putting a warning on the box, Kraft just formulated for the European market. But in the US, no warning is required, so the artificial version stays on the shelf. Another good example is the popular drink Mountain Dew. It contains brominated vegetable oil in America, a pretty bad oil for your heart, but not in Europe or Japan because they're banned in those countries. Bread products across dozens of American brands contain potassium bromate, a dose strengthener banned in Canada, the UK, the EU, China, and Brazil because research linked it to kidney damage and cancer in animal studies. California banned it in 2023, but at the federal level, it's still approved, which means a chemical that most of the developed world considers unsafe is sitting in the bread aisle of
Guys, I am going to be scared to eat when I go to America. That is so wild, guys.
Grocery stores in 46 out of 50 American states. None of these companies are being forced to use these ingredients. They're making a financial calculation that using cheaper inputs in the American market is worth it, because the regulatory system doesn't penalize them for doing so. The US operates on an innocent until proven guilty standard, where an ingredient is assumed safe until enough evidence accumulates over years or decades to prove it's harmful. Europe uses the precautionary principle, which flips the logic. If there is uncertainty, a new ingredient doesn't get approved until the manufacturer can scientifically prove it's safe. And America hasn't switched to the European model for one straightforward reason. Both sides benefit from keeping it the way it is. For the FDA, reviewing every new additives would take years per ingredient and require a budget that they don't have. For the food companies, it's even simpler. Why spend millions on independent safety testing and wait 2 years for FDA approval when you can pay a fraction of that to certify food safety yourself? Back in 2010, when one company was questioned by the FDA about the safety of an ingredient called theobromine, they simply withdrew their voluntary notification, hired an independent contractor to declare it safe anyway, and kept using it. The FDA had no mechanism to stop them. The agency can't afford to enforce stricter rules, and the industry has no financial reason to follow them. That's how a loophole stays open for almost 7 decades. The GRAS loophole is basically a multi-billion-dollar subsidy for whoever can exploit it most creatively. And the companies exploiting it the best are the ones you've never heard of. Go to your kitchen right now and pick up the first packaged food you see. Could be a bag of Doritos, a can of Coca-Cola, a cup of yogurt, or a box of Cheerio. Flip it over and look at the ingredient list. Somewhere on there, you are almost guaranteed to see 2 words: natural flavors. That phrase is doing a lot of work because in most cases, the formulation behind those 2 words
Don't scare me. Look, these are like these are supposed to be, how quickly you came here. These are supposed to be healthy. Let's see. It has vegetable oils. These are in Spanish too. Why can't they put them in English? Oh my god. Ácido cítrico, aroma de fumo, emulsionante, lecitina de soja, tomate e aceituna. Ah, okay. Condimento sabor. It does say like flavor condiments of tomato and olives and herbs, but it doesn't say natural whatever that was. Interesting. It says you have to eat this little bag in 2 to 3 sittings. What do you mean? I ate it all.
Wasn't created by the brand on the front of the box. There are 3 major firms that engineer the flavors in almost everything Americans eat. The food brands hire them the way a restaurant hires a chef, except these chefs serve 300 million people and nobody knows their name. The biggest is a Swiss company called Givaudan. The second is an American company called IFF, which stands for International Flavors and Fragrances. And the third is another Swiss firm called Firmenich. Together, they control over 55% of a market worth over $40 billion a year. Givaudan alone holds roughly a quarter of the global market and offers over 2,200 different strawberry flavors in its category. Not 22, not 220, over 2,200 variations of a single fruit flavor, each one optimized for a different product and a different consumer base. IFF purchases roughly 8,500 raw materials from 2,300 suppliers worldwide, blending them into proprietary compounds that get licensed to the brands you see on the shelf. And every single one of those formulations is legally classified as a trade secret. So when you read natural flavors on the label, you're looking at a formula that could contain dozens of individual chemical compounds, solvents, and preservatives, none of which have been disclosed because trade secret law overrides ingredient transparency laws in the US. And here's why the secrecy matters so much to them. These formulations aren't just about making food taste.
Fendi, what about your food? What do you have in your food? Look up. There you go. They can kind of see you. Because they can't see you if you're looking down. What do you have what type of preservatives are you eating? Hey? You have a lot of snacks. We should check it out. Yeah.
Taste good. They're engineered to make you eat more. Food scientists call it the bliss point, the precise combination of sugar, salt, and fat that triggers the strongest craving response without ever making you feel fully satisfied. It's why you can eat an entire bag of chips without feeling full, the same way you would after a home-cooked meal. Your body isn't registering food the same way because the formulation was specifically designed to bypass your satiety signal, the part of your brain that's supposed to tell you, okay, you're full, stop eating. And the bliss point isn't a general target. It's calculated down to the milligram for each individual product. Researchers have found that there is a specific concentration of sugar where the craving response peaks. And if you go even slightly above that concentration, the product starts to taste too sweet, and people would eat less of it. So the flavor company aren't just making food taste good, they're finding the exact mathematical ceiling of how much pleasure your brain can process before it tells you to stop. And then they're parking the formula right below that line. That's why you reach the bottom of the bag and think, I didn't even realize I was still eating. That was the design working as intended. And the reason these companies guard these calculations so aggressively.
That's why there's no chips left, Fendi. Does that happen with dog food too? Because you eat a lot. What about the dog treats and those huesitos? She's disappointed because I'm not giving her chips, but I don't have any. It's empty. Empty.
Is because getting the bliss point right on a single product can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars in annual sales. Ultra-processed foods built on these formulations now make up nearly 60% of the average American adult's diet. And the number has been climbing up for decades. And studies are now linking high ultra-processed food consumption to increased rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cognitive decline. But the FDA has no regulatory category for ultra-processed. This means the fastest growing segment of the American diet exists in a complete regulatory blind spot. But the good news is that the FDA was directed in 2025 to explore closing the GRAS self-affirmation loophole. But the rulemaking usually takes years, and the food industry will lobby against any changes that increase their costs. And thousands of FDA scientists were fired in April 2025 due to cost-cutting measures. It means the agency now has even fewer resources to enforce the rules it already has. If you want to protect yourself today, here's something you can do the next time you're at the grocery store. Before you put something in your cart, flip it over.
Boy, if I have to read everything when I go to a grocery store, I'm gonna go crazy.
And count ingredients. If the list has more than 5 ingredients you can't pronounce or wouldn't find in home kitchen, just put it back. If natural flavors appear in the first 5 ingredients.
What? Then I could not eat anything. What do you mean? What do you mean if it has more than 5 ingredients? Like, what am I supposed to eat? An apple? No. I'm not. I don't like that.
The product is more engineered than you think. And if you really want to know whether what you're buying is safe, check if the same product exists in the European version. If the European label is shorter, you know that the American version contains things that at least one developed countries decided weren't worth.
That's way too much work. That's way too much work to go to a grocery store. Can you believe that? No. Just make it safe. Make food normal again.
The risk. I'm curious to know what you think about ultra-processed food, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive on food, here's another video where I dive even deeper on a different topic. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
My thoughts on ultra-processed food, I think it's really cool how they, stay good for a long time. Apart from that, I don't understand why you would add just chemicals to your food for no reason. But that was interesting though. Do you guys take these things into consideration when you buy food? And yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really hope you liked it. Please subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.